No bullshit review. Six weeks, quite some time, but I think that time was necessary for my sanity. We're back though, and we're doing a top tier no bullshit review on the M1A1, or as I like to call it, top tier's pincushion. The M1A1 in real life is a very good fighting vehicle. It has fantastic numbers overall, and it has served in many conflicts across the globe. That being said, in War Thunder, it's a video game, and some of these numbers are skewed a bit. Now, the M1A1 has a lot of things going for it, and there are a lot of things I do enjoy about this vehicle. But at the same time, its weaknesses kind of frustrate you to no end. So this tank could be the best thing you've ever played, and at the same time, your worst nightmare. First off, I'd like to talk about the mobility of the Abrams, one of its strong suits. This thing is fast, quick, and very agile. Now, when I can describe a tank as light on its feet, what I mean by that is going in and out of certain situations, climbing hills, climbing different types of gradients, and getting out of those situations as fast as possible. This tank is definitely, in definition, light on its feet. Like the Leopard 2A5, for example, sometimes it gets stuck when it's going up a hill and you have to go backwards or neutral steer on some type of gradient. Whereas the Abrams, it has zero trouble turning the whole of the tank and the turret independently from each other in a smooth, fast fashion. It's very, very good at that. So the mobility of the turret, not only the turret and the tank itself, is absolutely good. With a good top line speed as well. It has 1500 horsepower like most top tier tanks, and it can get in and out of positions fast. Also, the Abrams is almost the fast as the T-80U. So as far as tanks go fighting against the T-80U, which is one of the most go-karty tanks in the game at top tier for what it's capable of, this tank can almost beat it to positions, and you can utilize its speed in that way too. Basically rush one side. One of the reasons these Abrams teams actually lose quite a bit is because they use its speed in the wrong way. They try to flank and overcommit and completely overextend on one side of the map, and it causes their whole team to get absolutely rinsed on the other side of the map and get spawn camped after they died on their flank. So if you're playing this thing, yes, speed is good, but if you see too many people committing, stay back, play the sniper role. This thing can do that as well. Use spots and peek from different areas as you see fit and utilize its mobility well. Another part of the Abrams that I really do love is this gun, and more seriously, the ammo it actually gets. It's awesome. I really love this gun. Honestly, it's one of the hardest hitting top tier guns in the game in my opinion. Just, I don't know if that's lucky for me. I know a lot of people complain about this round as well, and it could just be a server-based thing, but I noticed personally when I play this tank, most tanks get one shot pretty easily from this awesome gun. Now, it's all because of this armor-piercing round. I'll pop it up on screen. It's a good round. It has 470 millimeters of penetration at 10 meters. Of course, you know, there are some rounds that do more than that, but there are also rounds that do less than that at top tier, and it is definitely a jump up from the 105 mil on the IP and the M1. Now, I could have made a video on those, but I'm just going to talk about them in this gun segment, in the firepower segment, because those tanks, the only reason they're different from this tank, aside from a little bit of composite, if that, is the gun. And the gun on those is really fallen behind. It's been power creeped itself, and it's kind of terrible to see it that way. It's the only 10.0 tank that has 105 millimeter cannons that can perform better than it at a lower tier. For example, the Type 74 gets a higher pen round on its 105 mil at 8.7 than the M1 Abrams gets at 10.0. So that's the big issue with the 105 mil Abrams, but the 120 mil Abrams definitely gets a good round. You can kill T60s and T64s, and I don't know what T60 is. T-series tanks, that's what I mean. Completely in the front, just right through that driver's hatch is an easy shot, clean cut, and most of them you can even upper front plate. When you run into something French like the Leclerc, lower front plate or right through the mantlet. Leopard 2A5, right through the mantlet. If you hit underneath the gun, you can knock out the turret, possibly kill the gunner. And I think at certain angles, you can even go through the upper front plate. Definitely the lower front plate on those things. And as far as any other tanks at top tier, another Abrams, you can just go through the front of the turret, and things like that. So, really good gun. I enjoyed it a lot, and it definitely hits like a Mack truck. Now we get to the bad part of the Abrams, the armor. Oh, man. For a tank that in real life has such good statistics, it blows my mind how weak this tank is in game. Now, I did have a theory in my head, right? Yeah, sure, maybe the numbers are skewed. I personally have never been in an M1A1. I don't know the actual statistics of its armor, but it would make sense if they were more, right? It should have more armor, I believe. The problem it runs into in War Thunder is it's fighting against vehicles that are even older than it, or younger than it, I should say. It's like it's fighting its younger brothers, but it's acting as if it's the same tier, same quality, same time frame. And the reason for that is we had a really good tank early on. I mean, the M1A1, if I'm not mistaken, is dating back to the 80s. So the armor in this game gets penetrated by almost anything at its tier. If you have more than 500, 600 millimeters of penetration, some of the tanks in this tier, this game do, or even more than 400, 450 even, you can pen the front of the turret on the left-hand side, right where the gunner sits, just straight through the turret. But if you don't get glass cannoned, what the footage I'm showing you happens every so often, and that is the Abrams being the mysterious Abrams it is. Shells disappear when you shoot an Abrams. Yes, you can penetrate its turret all day, and it's a very easy shot, and sometimes it one-shots it. But if that Abrams didn't carry that much ammo, he carried a lower amount of ammo, and he gets shot in the turret and survives that, boy, are you in for hell. So Abrams are able to do this thing that I have coined inking. Whereas they have so much smoke that can come out of every orifice of the tank itself. It can hide and conceal itself using its backwards mobility. If you have not hit the engine of an Abrams and you just go through the turret and you don't kill it, it will spaz out, and before you have a chance to reload the gun you see, there will be a wall of smoke in front of you. The tank will be back 15 football fields over a different hill in a different area code, talking to Yoshodi on the cell phone while he is repairing, and it is a bad news time. And then he will come back and utilize the power of the Abrams to kill you, because when these things get hurt, they become the most invincible tanks in War Thunder. It's a phenomenon, and I know this sounds crazy, but I am telling you right now, the armor on the Abrams is a scam. I do not understand it. I don't want to understand it. I know we're going on a little bit of a tangent, but trust me, for every 5 times you get one shot in this tank, there will be 3 times, and that's not a 10-0 scale. That's not a 10 scale, but I'm telling you, every 3 times to 5, there will be an instance of you getting penned, not dying, being able to run away with your smoke, hide, repair, come back, and reap vengeance on the enemies because of your armor. Because no armor is the best armor. So I don't know. It's interesting. Overall, the Abrams is a tank I enjoy to play. Has a very good lineup. I mean, my top tier lineup consists of the M1 Abrams, the original, the M1A1. I have the ADATs, a Bradley, an H1Z, and a Phantom right now. And if that doesn't sound like the biggest freedom boner you've ever heard, I don't know where you're from. If somebody, here's another instance of the armor absolutely just, boom, I'm out of there. I'll see you later. You're not hitting me again. And you can continue to fight. But that only happens, like I said, 3 out of 5 times or 3 out of 7 times. And it's a weird phenomenon. But overall, I like this tank. I think it's in a really good lineup. You can't go wrong if you want to grind it and you end up getting this. It's not super expensive. While the repair cost is high, it could be worse like other tanks at its tier. And you get 3 of them. It's almost like the 105 ones scare people enough to where they don't want to push you because they don't necessarily know just yet, especially if you're in the IP. They don't know if you have the 120 or not, so it kind of makes people stand off. They're a little scared. And on top of that, I haven't talked about this. It gets night vision and thermal. Thermal at top tier is a new godsend, and if you're not using it, you're not with the wave, you're going to die. I mean, honestly, now you don't know if it's ULQ or if they just have thermal vision, but you're getting hit through every bush. People will find you. People are after you. And that's life, Chief. You're going to get breached. So welcome to the pincushion of top tier. I hope you guys enjoy the keys to your new Abrams tanks. Link in the description down below. You can get them for free. JK. That's just my merch store. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace, peace.